Hello and welcome back to a weather topic video. This one, as you can tell from the title and from the thumbnail, I presume, is going to be talking about the Fujita scale and the enhanced Fujita scale, comparing them, looking at their similarities and differences, and what might be wrong with them. For the US viewers, you guys will most likely know the Fujita scale, but for those overseas, doesn't really matter what you see. This might be a brand new thing that you're learning about. So let's just jump right in. The invention and meaning of the original, the pure, complete, true meaning of the original Fujita scale invented by Dr. Ted Fujita, Theodore Fujita, what is to connect the Beaufort wind scale, which is the wind scale used, I want to say, in Britain, and I don't think it's used elsewhere, although I may be wrong. I'm an American, I'm sorry. But again, to connect the Beaufort wind scale, which uses force numbers, and the Mach number smoothly. So we can see it kind of creates what would be a nice curve to these two lines. Oh my goodness, thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. um, for an F1 tornado on the F1 scale is equivalent to force 12, which is the maximum force on the Beaufort wind scale and is also the minimum hurricane wind speed, which is shown here. And F12, which has never been used and will never be used, even F6 was never used, is Mach 1 at the speed of sound at negative 3 degrees Celsius. Don't ask me why it's negative 3 degrees Celsius. That's what every graph shows, and I don't understand why. The Fujita scale here was introduced in 1971 by Dr. Theodore Fujita and Dr. Pearson, formally adopted 1972 and was updated in 1973 to account for tornado track length and width. There are things that are called Fujita miles, actually, which is something that I didn't know about until relatively recently. And I don't know what it's supposed to mean. I don't know if it really means anything, but it is a thing. The Fujita scale was, of course, used retroactively to rate tornadoes 1972 backwards, or 1971 backwards. And these tornadoes that have been rated, let's say F4, F5, are not rated Ef4 or Ef5 today. Big note here, as you may have read ahead, the wind speeds here are not accurate. These are gross overestimates, and I do mean that gross as in large. These are quite the large overestimates. And from the very beginning, it's meant as a proxy rating. Proxy meaning not true, I should say. This is an after the fact rating by surveying damage. And the reason why quick note here, of course, the F scale has a cap because this was the maximum wind speed recorded from May 3rd, 1999. And you can verifiably put a cap on the wind speed of the F scale because it's not being used anymore. Here are the wind speeds of the enhanced Fujita scale. Little known fact, I didn't know this until I was researching this. There was the modified Fujita scale that Dr. Ted Fujita introduced himself, but was not adopted at all around 1992 or 1993. But as you can probably read, I sure hope so. If you can't, that's okay. The enhanced Fujita scale's meaning is simply to correct the Fujita scale. It has lower, more accurate wind speeds. We're talking that the maximum for EF4 is 200 miles per hour. Meanwhile, that was in the EF3, that was in the F3 range before. And again, this is meant as a proxy rating. This is not meant to be used while the tornado is in progress. And before we go into the flaws of that, which I'm kind of excited about the most, I do want to talk about the similarities and differences. First of all, we have our wind speeds right here. Obviously, they have different wind speed numbers. The EF scale specifically has 28 separate damage indicators, and the Ef5 rating requires a higher standard of construction than F5. This is because we have simply learned how to make structures resist wind speeds. If you remember all the way back with the video that I did on hurricanes, I don't even know if that's on YouTube, so I may just be telling a big lie right now, but I know that I did it. The head of the National Hurricane Center, NHC, said that winds of around 155 miles per hour plus will likely be enough to destroy any structure if it's sustained for, I'd say, much less than a minute. So 200 miles per hour is definitely well above that. Hell, even high-end EF3 is. So there's definitely that. You are not going to be able to truly resist winds of that magnitude. It is not possible. But there are similarities. Cycloidal marks, which I totally should have included a picture here, but I'm a big dum-dum and I didn't, are used for data whenever possible, because these are indicative of 4s and 5s. Doesn't matter which scale. F4s and F5s will produce cycloidal marks. EF4s and EF5s will produce cycloidal marks. These are just scours in the ground, whether it be from the wind itself or debris that essentially tore up the terrain. The damage descriptions, at least on Wikipedia, which I do trust for stuff like this, for the most part, is the exact same. Again, this is only on Wikipedia. It could be different with the NOAA or NWS, which I would assume it would be. You will notice that specifically damage from high-end 4s and normal 5s will look very, very similar. And again, both the Fujita Scale and the Enhanced Fujita Scale are a proxy rating. These are attached only after the damage has been thoroughly surveyed. And I do want to give my point on why a proxy rating is flawed. So here we go. We have the May 3rd, 99 Muha, Oklahoma F4, which has the widest wind field ever recorded at 7 kilometers. By no means does that mean that this is an F5 or an F5 plus. But something very eerie is that if you look up the Bridge Creek Moor tornado, you'll get the same day, the exact same day. And this thing looks oddly similar in appearance. And I'm also not saying that appearance means strength either. And also, this is only on one account, I will say. But the one storm chaser or storm chasers who chased this tornado said that it may have possibly been equal or more than Bridge Creek Moor strength. Now, take that as you will, but I tend to believe storm chasers. The Goldsby, Oklahoma EF4, which occurred on May 24th, 2011, above construction rating homes were completely swept. This house right here, although it is pretty hard to tell, has anchor bolts, these things right here, that are less than 2 feet apart. The building grade in Oklahoma says that you have to have anchor bolts 2 feet apart. This thing had bolts that were less than 2 feet apart. So this is a well above grade home, and it is slabbed. That there is not there. All the debris from the house is presumably over here, right next to this truck. As you can see, we have some cars that are mangled pretty much beyond repair and possibly beyond recognition. And as well, that seems to be part of a windrow too. We also have the Chickasaw, Oklahoma Ef5, again from the same day, May 24th, 2011. How can an Ef5 hit a concrete dome this heavily? Ef4s don't do that. I'm sorry, Ef5s do that. And we have our last tornado, the May 31st, 2011, El Reno, Oklahoma Ef3. Notice how all of these occur in May and all of these occur in Oklahoma. The hell is the problem with May and Oklahoma? I'm telling you, there's something up. It's just called Tornado Alley, but there's something up. Doppler on wheels, which is DOW, recorded wind speeds of 296 miles per hour. That is insane. And the only reason why this thing was rated to Ef3 was because this thing barely scraped El Reno because it went south of El Reno. Look up this tornado, see the track. It is a very weird track tornado. We have this right here, this photo, middle left, is Ef3 damage, yes. But the car that Tim Samaras, Paul Samaras, and Carl Young were in, if those doors weren't there, I wouldn't be able to tell you what type of vehicle that is. And those storm chasers are legends. They are the only storm chasers to die due to a tornado, and there's a memorial somewhere. I have no idea where it is, but I know it exists, and I want to go see it one day. But we do have confusion specifically between high-end 4s and 5s, and that's just because the line is pretty blurry. Now, this part I know is a little confusing, but I really couldn't find a different way to word it. Ef4s can do stuff is in bold from therefore on. Ef5's will is all in italics. Ef4s and 5s should pretty much be able to defoliate any tree or shrub or bush that they come across. Ef4s can possibly debark and uproot trees. Ef5s likely will be debarking and uprooting trees. Now, the trees that Ef4s do debark and uproot would probably be weaker, or so that could mean younger or older trees. But Ef5s will most likely be debarking and uprooting the trees in the direct path of it. Ef4s can reduce weak homes to foundation, which is called slab. It's called being slabbed, or just wiping it from existence. Take whichever one you want. Ef5s will be reducing homes to foundations. Ef4s can throw cars dozens of meters. Ef5s, will be throwing cars hundreds of meters or yards. Doesn't really matter. They're very similar, and likely mangling them beyond recognition in the process. Like I said before, the difference between a high-end 4 and 5 is quite blurry, and a clearer line between the two would be appreciated, although there's not exactly much that you can do. This could possibly include specific damage indicators for a high-end 4 compared to 5. And by 4 and 5, I'm talking either side, I'm talking specifically on the EF spectrum. And this is just my personal opinion. The F6 or EF6 rating is definitely possible. Some examples here: Xenia, Ohio, 1974, Gwynn, Alabama, 74. Those tornadoes are both part of this 1974 super outbreak. Gerald, Texas, 97. Bridge Creek, Moor, Oklahoma, 99. Smithville, Mississippi, 2011. And when you look up the Fujita and enhanced Fujita scales, they give you a percentage of the rating. So I think that the percent of tornadoes that were rated at 5 on the Fujita scale is like 1.01%. And for Ef5 right now, it's like 0.56. The 6 rating, which likely will never be added, but one can dream, is going to be making it like 0.25 or like 0.1% of the Fujita ranked tornadoes, and like less than that of the enhanced Fujita ranked tornadoes. And I'm going to give you an example of Ef5 damage, and this is from the surprisingly controversially rated Joplin tornado in 2011. We have a 100-pound manhole cover blown away that requires wind speeds of at least 200 miles per hour, which is immediate high-end Ef4, maximum rated Ef4 actually, and very evident wind rowing. This is a perfect example of what wind rowing is. Long streaks of debris, and you can even see the shards of buildings facing relatively the same way. That is wind rowing at its finest right there. So again, the same tornadoes as examples for the 6 rating. These would be winds near 250 to 300 miles per hour. Could possibly downgrade that minimum wind speed to 230, 225. But my point still stands. These would be the most powerful tornadoes on the planet. This first photo right here is from Xenia, Ohio. We have some evident wind rowing in multiple places, a large swath of wind rowing right here at this biggest red circle. I could not find any photos of Gwinn, Alabama, since that tornado happened at night. But we have Gerald, Texas, 97. This thing was not rated above 5 because there's no way to tell if it was above that. And that could just be the indicator that you need. If you cannot tell if something had been there or not, it's 5+. Specifically, these two tornadoes that we have photos of right here, Xenia and Gerald, Dr. Ted Fujita inspected himself and said that Xenia was originally given an F6 by him. And Gerald, he said, was likely the strongest tornado he had ever seen in his entire life. In this photo, there is nothing left. You cannot tell what was there. And we obviously read ahead. We have the edge of the wind field, a normal grass field, unaffected by the tornado. Just at the edge of the wind field, the grass is almost gone and scoured. The center of the wind field, there is massive scouring and wrecking of the terrain. That is insane. We have Bridge Creek Moor, the most powerful tornado ever recorded. 301 plus or, 301. I thought I said 3001, I'm sorry. 301 miles per hour plus or minus 20. What I presume to be truck. I only say that because I've looked at this photo for a while, and I was like, yeah, maybe that frame and the front. But I know that wheel is not supposed to be there. If your wheel is like this on your car, you need to call into your auto body shop immediately. I highly recommend you do that. In fact, don't drive your car if it's like this. That's a life lesson right there. And to the photo to the left of that, we have trees not exactly uprooted. Well, they are still upright, but definitely debarked and defoliated, and we see our ground scouring right there. And lastly, we have Smithville, one of the 4 Ef5s, parts of the 2011 super outbreak, specifically April 27th. A car or vehicle that I can tell you is red, I can tell you that much, but what it actually is, I cannot. Yeah, I can't tell you. I leaned in closer to my screen to tell you, and I still can't. And I've looked at the photo for a while, too. And in front of this man, we have some evident windrowing, and right behind there, a house that has been completely torn away from its foundation. It has been slabbed. Some things to note, but that I could not find about the Gwynn, Alabama tornado, was that foundation slabs were said to have been picked up or moved. That's insane. Granted, this is 1974 construction, and this right here is 2011 construction, but the point still stands. That is extremely powerful. Reported slabs being lifted out of the earth is absolutely insane. So, is the EF scale wrong or is it bad? No. I may have just gone on like a 30-hour rant about it, but no, it's not. It's not bad, and it's not wrong. Doppler on wheels, again, DOW, cannot write every single tornado. That's just not possible. There's not enough of them. You cannot predict where a tornado is going to be and have a Doppler on wheels right there ready for it. On top of that, Doppler on wheels still scans above ground level because that's what Doppler needs to do. And that's just how Doppler works. Also, probes aerial probes that are thrown into tornadoes cannot be sent into every single tornado. That's not possible. Same issue with Doppler on wheels. You need to be prepared for a tornado, but if you're going to have an outbreak that has, say, 100 plus tornadoes, you are not going to be able to have 100 separate vehicles specifically at the point where a tornado is going to touch down. It's not able to be done. And last but not least, proxy rating is always able to be done. This can, on top of that, satellite imagery, obviously satellites that have taken pictures of the ground, can verify some of the damage done. So our only true way to rank tornadoes in a way that is accurate is the proxy rating. That is accurate all the time. Now, obviously there's still problems with it, but it's the best that we can do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is disappointing to many people. We already know this, that the proxy rating is disappointing and not very accurate. But until we can predict where every single tornado is going to touch down, specifically in the U.S., which gets around 1,000 tornadoes annually, which good luck. We have to rely on the Fujita rating and enhanced Fujita rating, and that's okay. So thank you guys for tuning in to this